Hey everybody, welcome to the Hanger Bud Show. My name's Michael, and in today's episode, I look forward to talking to you guys about ground instructor requirements. But before we go into that, this is episode 2, and sometimes I shoot these early in the morning, and I live in the Midwest here. It's about 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. So you'll have to excuse my voice. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get warmed up. And I got some coffee here if you see me drinking coffee. Obviously, I just got up, so not too long ago. But today, a lot of times I prep the lesson and the script and all that stuff in the show the night before. And then I wake up and early in the morning and get it done in the morning. So this is episode 2, and like I said, in today's episode, we're going to talk about ground instructor requirements. I got my clipboard with me so I can stay on topic, but we're going to go over requirements, differences between basic, advanced, and instructor ground ratings, recent experience requirements, or what it takes to stay current as a ground instructor, and how to use your ground instructor certificate to earn income. We'll kind of go over a couple ideas on, excuse me, on how to make some money as a ground instructor. If you like what you're seeing on these shows, we'd greatly appreciate if you like or subscribe if you're on YouTube, or comment and let us know, give us your feedback on our website, hangerbuds.com. Just letting us know how you feel about the show, and sharing it or liking it helps us spread the word about the content, and helps us keep going with the content. So like or share if you can. Okay, so let's just jump right into this one today. And ground instructor requirements are the rules for them are under FAR Part 61.215. I'm not sure if there's a 141 component to this, but FAR 61, if you're in aviation, you obviously know that covers a lot of airman regulation, and not the structured way of 141. So long story short, we're under FAR 61.215. This is subpart 1. So, okay, let me say it one more time. The requirements for the ground instructor and the details of a ground instructor rating can be found at CFR 61 subpart 1.215. Okay, 61.215. So the requirements, I got a lot of this stuff out of the regs, but I summarized it because, as you guys may know, the regs can be very, they can be long and drawn out, but I summarize them. And if you hear something that's not 100% accurate, let us know. We'll come back and kind of throw an edit in, or we'd like to hear, but this is right out of the regs, so it's about as accurate as it's going to get. Grab a sip of coffee here. Okay, so the requirements to be a ground instructor include: must be at least 18 years of age, right off the clipboard here, be able to read, write, speak, and understand the English language, pass a knowledge test on the fundamentals of instructing. Okay, those are the requirements to become a ground instructor. But, the knowledge test is not required if the applicant holds a ground instructor certificate or flight instructor certificate issued under Part 61. Okay. It says under this part. I didn't go through the whole part of 61, so it says, if you have a flight instructor rating that's issued, then you don't have to. If you have a flight instructor rating, you obviously don't need to take the ground instructor test. You can teach ground. The knowledge test is not required if the applicant has a flight instructor rating. And then these are kind of interesting. I didn't know these were in there, and I honestly didn't. I don't hear much of this happening, but The knowledge test is not required if you hold a teacher certificate issued by a state, county, city, or municipality that authorizes the person to teach an educational level of 7th grade or higher, or if you're employed as a teacher at an accredited college or university. So those are the things that if the knowledge test is not required if you fall under one of those categories. And I'm sure that it's the kind of deal where you got to show the administrator or the FAA proof of whatever it is that the requirements that you meet to not take the knowledge test. So anyway, most people take the knowledge test to get their ground instructor rating if they're just getting a ground instructor rating, from what I've seen in the field, or they're already in a flight instructor. Those are the two situations I see the most. But I haven't been in collegiate aviation that much, so I'm not sure if you see a lot more of people having the ability to exercise ground instructor privileges in the college world that didn't take the knowledge test. Not sure. Let me know. Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about the differences and privileges of the basic, advanced, and instrument ground instructor ratings. Okay, starting off with the basic. The major, excuse me, I'm getting warmed up here. Sorry, I should have maybe did some singing or something before I came on the podcast. But we're going to start with basics. So as a basic ground instructor, you're able to give ground training for sport pilot certificate, recreational pilot certificate, and private pilot certificate. Okay. You're also able to provide ground training required for a sport pilot, recreational pilot, and private pilot flight review, or BFR. So the ground training portion of a BFR, essentially, you're able to provide that. And then, you know how the FAAs are. Sometimes they write it so it's kind of like, it's not hard to understand, but it's not usually how we talk about it in the aviation industry. But the next one is a basic ground instructor can make a recommendation or sign off for a knowledge test required for the issuance of a sport pilot certificate, recreational pilot certificate, or a private pilot certificate. So to summarize, basic ground instructors can do sport, rec, and private pilot stuff. Okay. I don't know about a recreational pilot certificate, honestly. I haven't heard of that one. And then the sport pilot certificate, I've heard of it, but I don't see it getting done a lot. Honestly, the private pilot is where the bread and butter is. But, okay. Let's talk about the advanced ground instructor. So, with the advanced ground instructor rating, this is how the regs say it. Ground training you're able to provide ground training on the aeronautical knowledge areas required for the issuance of any certificate or rating under Part 61. Once again, I didn't go through 61, or I didn't go through the whole part. But by that, I'm assuming they mean that you're able to provide ground instruction for commercial and CFI. Okay. Sorry, let me read this whole thing and then come back and tell you what I think. So an advanced ground instructor is able to provide ground training on the aeronautical knowledge areas required for the issuance of any certificate or rating under this part, except for the aeronautical knowledge areas required for an instrument rating. Okay, so all ratings except for the instrument you're able to provide training for. Okay, ground training. Okay. So same thing as before, if you have an advanced instructor certificate, you're able to provide the ground training required for any flight review except for an instrument rating. Okay, and then as an advanced ground instructor, you're also able to provide recommendation or sign off for the knowledge test for all ratings except for the instrument rating. Okay, so ground training. We're not talking flight stuff. This is all ground instructor stuff. Okay, so On the next one, instrument. If you're an instrument ground instructor, you're able to provide this is going to seem pretty obvious, but we're going to go through it. The instrument, if you have an instrument ground instructor rating, you're able to provide the ground training in the aeronautical areas required for the issuance of an instrument rating. Okay. You're also able to provide ground training for the proficiency check of an instrument rating. And then you're obviously able to do the recommendation or sign off for the issuance of you're able to sign people off for the written test for the instrument rating. That's for an instrument ground instructor. So there's the differences between each and what you can do. So this is kind of overlapping, I think, but it is in the regs, so I want to just touch on it. This is just a logbook endorsement authorization. Essentially, it's a person who holds a ground instructor certificate is authorized within the limitations of the ratings on the ground instructor certificate to endorse the logbook or other training record of a person to whom the holder has provided the training or recommendation specified in paragraphs A through C of this section. So you're able to write in their logbook and recommend them for the written test, dependent upon which instructor rating you have. Okay. So, recency experience requirements. This is how you keep your ground instructor rating current. Within the last 12 calendar months, you have to have performed one of the following. You've had employment or activity as a ground instructor giving pilot, flight, or ground instructor training. Employment or activity as a flight instructor giving pilot, flight instructor, or ground instructor ground or flight training. And then completion of an approved flight instructor refresher course and receipt of a graduation certificate for that course. Or you can get an endorsement from an authorized instructor certifying the person has demonstrated knowledge in the subject areas prescribed under 61.213A3 and A4. Okay, it's not that bad, honestly. You either have to be employed as a ground instructor, providing ground instructor training within the last 12 months. You have to be providing flight instructor training or do flight instructor training in the last 12 months, or complete a refresher course, or having a CFI sign off saying that you're good to go. So not too bad on the recency requirements. And let's talk about how to use your ground instructor certificate to create additional income. Honestly, from the business side of things, I see this flight instructor having a lot of potential once they are able to teach ground. Obviously, flight instructors want to build time. Most of them do, to move on to the next step in their career. There's a lot of flight instructors out there that teach on the part-time on the side because it's enjoyable and they like doing it. So, nevertheless, I think the ground component needs to be looked at as another tool, obviously, that you can use to help people serve the student and make additional income. If you really think about the ways you can offer ground, there's a lot more ways you can offer ground than there is flight training, because you don't need all the infrastructure to provide ground training. You don't need an airplane. You don't even need an office, really. All you need is a student and then your knowledge. So, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about how to make additional income with your ground instructor certificate. So, one of the first things I have, the name of the game is to expose yourself, right? I said in a previous episode, to be able to succeed as a CFI, you need two things, and that's exposure and value. So to expose yourself means you have to let potential students know about yourself. A great way to do that is with the Hanger Buds e-commerce store. Not only is this a totally turnkey e-commerce store, but we've added an SEO component to it, a search engine optimized component, which means that we have essentially created pages within the website that are SEO to show up when people search for terms like flight instructor and then your city and state in your area. So like when people search for services that you provide in your area, this page is more likely to show up and therefore giving you direct leads, right? So we call it lead generation. We've thrown in a lead generation component to the SEO site, and we've put effort in giving value to the CFI to allow them to get direct leads. You know, we heard when we first launched the product, we heard a lot of CFIs say, hey, what if I don't have students? You know, what if I'm not at a flight school? Can I still get a HangerBuds e-com store and make it work? And when we first initially made the product, it was designed for CFIs that are around students. But we found out that, you know, we've made lots of websites, we've SEO'd lots of websites in the past, and we said, okay, let's add some value to this. Let's create a SEO component to the e-com store. So not only do we focus on providing them a turnkey e-com store, but we also at the same time can allow the instructor or aviation professional to have a turnkey website. So this can serve as your personal website too, or a company website. There's an SEO page on there that is geared to show up in front of your customers in your area. That's the whole point of it. That's all it does, you know. And so we've done it we've created keywords and organized them in a certain way. We've put the correct alt text on the images. We've created a heading structure that's appropriate. The markup schema is all tailored to SEO, the featured image, all of it. Everything about the page is SEO to show up in front of your potential customers in your geographic area. So what I'm getting at without going on and on and on is a way to make money as a ground instructor is to expose yourself. You can do that in many different ways. You need to expose your services as a ground instructor. You can put flyers up. You can post on Facebook group. You can make your own website. You can get a HangerBuds e-com store. That's one of the things I just discussed. You can get business cards so that when you're around people and you carry them in your wallet, you can just hand them a business card. Exposure doesn't mean I have to do one thing, right? But it also means that you got to be consistent and analytical in the way that you expose yourself. So a lot of people will do shotgun method where they'll do a bunch of stuff and they'll spread it over lots of channels, marketing, right? And then they don't get a lot of progress. And I think the main thing is because consistency. So what I'm saying is to expose yourself, be consistent, essentially. Get a HangerBuds store, right? Get post on Facebook consistently in the right groups too. Put some flyers up inside airports, get business cards, put an ad on barnstormers.com, that's an aviation website. Post on other social media platforms, post on YouTube. The list goes on and on and on. I can't possibly cover all the different ways to market. The key is that you consistently market. It is not a one and done thing. You have to spend, you know, my recommendation is you spend an hour each day. Weekday, you can do 5 days a week, you can do 3 days a week, whatever. But if you stay consistent, even 1 day a week, but what you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you put 5 days a week, 1 hour every day, just on marketing, I'm even going to talk about what channels, because eventually what's going to happen is, sure, maybe that first hour, the first week, you know, you're learning what channels are effective, what marketing material is effective, but you're learning, right? And if you stay consistent, you can take that, what's working, and you can improve upon it. And then you get better and better and better. So without going into much detail, one of the ways to expose yourself is getting a HangerBuds e-com store. You can teach at a ground training at a flight school. You can teach ground training at an airport. We're back at talking about how to make waves as a ground instructor, right? So you can teach at an airport, right? Ground training. You can teach at a flying school, ground training. You can teach at a flying club. These are all no-brainers, right? But the whole thing is that, let's say you call, let's use a flight school, right? This is an example of how you can get in. Let's say you can't find a job anywhere. You just can't find a job. Okay. But you want to fly, that you want to build time, or you want to fly as an instructor, right? Well, you call a school that you, the first thing is you call the school. Don't just send the resume in. Call the school that you want to work for and say, hey, do you have any flight instructor openings? If they say no, or they don't have openings, you offer another way of working for them, and that is, hey, would it be possible that I come and do some ground training for you guys? Can I run a ground school for you guys, for your students, for 2 months, 2 days a week, and we'll do initial pilot training, right? And then you're gonna have to organize a ground school. But is that something you'd be interested in? Now you've offered the school a way to make income without using up their planes. And that's a great thing for a flight school. So what I'm saying is, get creative with your ground instructor certificate, and then what that does is that opens the door for you to build a relationship with that entity so that you can get a seat flying with them eventually, right? Everything's about networking, relationships, and that kind of thing. So getting your foot in the door as a ground instructor doesn't mean that you're just going to be a ground instructor forever. That usually means that you have an opportunity now to get into the system for them, for that entity, and now you can fly with them one day. So, and it may not be that long, but those are kind of the ways to make additional money as a ground instructor. Obviously, you can teach ground in person or virtually, and the virtual component is using HangerBud's e-com store is great because they pay and schedule for the ground lessons all online. So you can do ground lessons online through the e-com store. So they can book, schedule, pay, and then you can hook up with them virtually and teach them virtually. So it's a great platform to expose yourself. But I'm going to close with the last section here, and that is, you got to offer something unique. As a ground instructor, if you're looking to make income, you can do some Googling and see, hey, ground instructor classes, or private pilot ground training, right? And you can see what comes up in Google. It's going to be a lot of flight schools in your geographic area. Then you scroll down to the organic side of Google, the organic listings below the map pack stuff, and you're going to see probably you might see some online stuff. You might see some bigger companies that have SEO to show up for that term. But what I'm getting at is those give you the ideas of what your competitors are offering, right? You have to offer something unique to stand out. So an example would be the first ground lesson is free. Get your ground training with me to get your private pilot's license. First lesson is free, okay? That gives the people a reason to contact you. It gives them a reason to come to you and for you to earn their business. That's always a great way to go. Show them that you are the one they want. And then after you show them that, they come. So that's not a bad thing to be unique. Okay, I'm going to end it with some of the ways you can expose yourself, because you can never have enough marketing. Flyers at airports, mailers to student pilots in the FAA registry. The FAA registry is a public database of addresses of student pilots. In a later episode, I can show you how to tap into that, but you can mail student pilots your services, your ground instructor services. Okay, you can send mailers to high-income individuals, not even in the FAA database. This is just, you can get mailing lists anywhere, right? And so you can direct mail people in a high-income neighborhood to start their pilot training and to start off with ground instruction with you. You can make Facebook ads, you can post in Facebook groups, you can post in social media. So I ran out of all my sheets of paper for this lesson. So that means that we are done with this lesson on how to make, on ground instructor requirements. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time.